All right, so contemplating changes to the format. Did a lot of tinkering around with plans, thoughts, and ideas today. I mean, I've been doing it. I haven't been formatting it particularly well lately with how I'm doing these. And I feel like I also want to maybe do some changes to how I describe them. Because I know I'm setting them up as weeks of type of content, but in most regards, as I'm working on these projects, they're a week devoted to getting started on it and the design aspect of it, and then it's just follow up. Yeah, I got a bit of a zit going there. It's largely follow up on those projects for weeks. So like I started with writing the stories and I've got the outlines and some of that stuff started. But I'm going to be writing that novel for another month or two. Just because timeline wise, that's where it fits in my schedule. And the skit videos, I'm hoping to try to finish them off in the next week here and then just post them. But I mean, they're sort of like they've been ongoing since like 2 weeks ago. And so I feel like maybe just doing I want to start prefacing all of the episodes with the live creations or creations live. I almost did the live creations daily, but that seems to suggest that I will finish a project each day. And I don't want to do that necessarily, although I do have some plans for stuff like that in the future. I don't think that's where I want to go with that. So live creations daily or creations live. I feel like creations live with the episode number and then in the description describe, well, maybe in the title, like creations live product I don't know. I got to figure out a way to frame it better. Because this isn't the first product I've done either. And so I kind of like, I played around with the idea of doing like product round 2. But one of the things I was doing earlier today was plotting out the course of where I'm going with the rest of this stuff. And it was partly inspired by somebody who did a video online on YouTube about she's a writer and she hasn't been published yet, but she was doing the number crunching and figuring out like what would it cost her to make a living as a writer. And part of that was like, okay, so what do I need to make a living? And for whatever reason, wherever she's living in the US, she says the cost of living for her is $50,000 a year. I'm like, that's expensive. I have never approached that level of income. Like on a good year where I almost get double my usual income, it's about $25,000 a year. But most years I get by with less than with about half of that. And so like the idea that like $50,000 is the mark she sets to whether or not she's succeeding, I'm like, whew, yeah, of course your numbers when you crunch your numbers on that score, it's going to look a lot harder. You're not going to really be able to do that as an author unless you you have a 20 books, 3 to 5 of them bestsellers on the bestseller market. Like, until you get to that kind of level of authordom, you're never going to make that. And so, like, one of the other things she talked about was like getting Patreon and AdSense from YouTube. And I think those were the big things she was talking about as making money. And she's getting AdSense money right now, but it's like $100 a month. I'm like, I'd take $100 a month right now, honestly, from a hobby. And like Patreon, like, I get a sense that she's getting ready to start that. I feel like that would be something I would also pursue, but as a writer, she's not doing a lot of stuff that maybe could potentially earn her some income, like sponsorships or merchandise or affiliate marketing. And when I look at some of those things, like, for me, they make sense in the long run for my channel here. But I'm also looking at the fact that I have more than one channel. And as I'm looking at, plotting all of that out, what makes the most sense over the next year or so for my channels, and particularly about what I'm going to be doing when I'm traveling. And so I use this laptop right now for doing any new documents, because if I do anything on this computer, I feel like it'll be lost. And sometimes I'm updating files that I have on this computer. And if I do that, an update on a file here, the copy I have already translated over here doesn't have the updated information on there. So I want to make sure I get it all in the right place. What the heck am I hung up on? All right, so I'm trying to get into a better position here. All right, so looking at some of this stuff right now. Okay. What are we choking on? I feel like there's something stuck in one of the wheels. There we go. You were being a bit of a pain in the butt. There we go. I need to figure out how to do a different position for a lot of this stuff that I'm doing. I've been thinking of doing a table setup in the other room. Part of it is that part of the reason I haven't done that yet is that the landlord of the property who lets me stay here, he's using that front room for staining and refinishing some furniture. And it's been a project that's been ongoing for 2 years. And so I can't get access to that room without being cluttered in by a lot of stuff. But if we get to a point where I can set something up in the corner of that room, I think I would be able to do a better visual arrangement of what I'm doing. Because what I'm using for my edited videos for this channel is my camera and an overhead light, and it's not always the best arrangement. So what I'm trying to figure out is I might be able to use this webcam. Oh, but it's still going to make really big files that take a long time to export and upload. I don't know. I feel like I could potentially minimize the edit workload. I have to play around with OBS tinkering to get a better sense of the capabilities that I might be able to get away with. You're just going to rotate now. All right, well, you'll be whatever you'll be for tonight. I'm not going to worry about it right now. But running some thoughts in my head here, I've sort of started to pin down where I want to go for the next rest of the year here. I guess 7 months. So The videos that I'm doing, I'm going to reshoot as a live video the horror short that I was animating. I think that just makes more sense. I can get it done and up and finished. And the animation is just, it's going to take all year if I don't do that. And then I got to thinking, like, okay, different styles of videos. I have the 3 skits that I'm going to do. So 1 horror animation, 3 skits. I got to thinking, like, okay, my OCD maybe kicked in a little bit here. I'll admit that. So I went from 1 remake of the animation, 3 skits, and then I got to thinking, like, okay, so if I do 2 of something, and then 4 of something, and then 5 of something, that's going to get me, at the end of the year, what we're going to have is each one of these weeks that I did with the breaks in between some of them, I'm probably going to get about 5 different creations for each category, roughly. I mean, that doesn't turn out that way. We'll look at the numbers down here, but if I assume that there's going to be like January and February with a break in March, April, May, June, July, break in August, September, October, November, December. So I'm going to have January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So 5 different things for each category of content that I'm doing, roughly. Now, if I'm doing videos where I do the horror animation that I was working on, that one's going to be a 1. If I do 2, and here's when it gets a little weird, is I want to see if I can record. I've thought about doing stand-up comedy, and so I thought it would be kind of fun to do 2 stand-up routines on one of these weeks where I shoot videos. So do a stand-up comedy routine twice during one of these video weeks, and then the 3 skits, and then 4 improv performances, and then 5 dramatic readings. So in total, it would be 15 videos by the end of the year, specifically for that category of the live content production. And then for the art, the paintings that I did 7 during that past week. But if I look at it, if I look at doing that again for each of the category, the thing to keep in mind is I do art and music are the same category for me. So if I alternate between the 2 of them with 5 over the course of the year, I'm going to get 3 arts and 2 music, which works for me because I wouldn't call myself a musician yet. So I'm learning as I go. I'm going to favor art more because that's when I can produce something. But if I do another repeat of a series of 7 artworks, each time I do artwork, that would be 21 different pieces of artwork that I do. But if I can go through that process and pick a favorite 14 images and make them saleable, you can buy the prints from them online. That would give me 14 saleables. And here's the thing. If we remember the video content, if I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those, how did you drop back? Like, how are you messing with the light levels in here? But if I do 5, I can end up with 15 videos, 14 artworks, and then I got to playing around with, if I do the health and well-being category, I did that section last because if you really crunch the numbers on the rest of what I'm doing, by the end of the year, if I write wrongs to my novella idea that I started, and then a collection of short stories that I'll do one each day for 7 days at the start of June, and then another collection of short stories that are going to go along with the short horror story that I wrote at the start of this month, and my novel from the start of this month, and a series of short stories that I'll do later in the year, and then a full-grown novel in November. Again, it's five months of content, but some of those months I came up with the concept of 2 nonfiction books for the Wrongs series, and I am going to have the novel that I'm working on right now, and the novella and the short story as groups. And so it's a long way of saying at the end of the year I should have 8 different books. Some of them are short story collections of about 7 to 9 short stories, and some of them are going to be novellas, some of them are going to be full-length novels. So 8 novels at the end of the year, 8 books. They're not all novels. And then board games or tabletop games. I have the game I already produced that I want to do better artwork for, so that's in there as well. But then I have the Cyberpunk game that I did, the 2 games that I did for Rita Raygun, and I'm working on planning out where I'm going next with my games, and that's going to include things like a dice game, a tile game, and possibly by the end of the year a role-playing game. So if I do that, I'm going to have 7 games by the end of the year, because the Runcible Foods game wasn't one of the monthly projects, but it is a game that I've come up with and produced. And then I did 2 games for Rita Raygun. And so if I just do 1 game from now on until the end of the year, I should have 6 different board games or tabletop games. Products, if I do a product each time I come around to doing a product through this process, I'm going to have the puzzle coasters, the backpack, and potentially some clothing designs that I want to look at doing, a jewelry line, some equipment for my cameras, and a yet undecided category of product. But if I do that, 5 categories, 5 products for the year would be the norm. I am potentially going to do a point where I do 2 products during one of these weeks. And so if I do that, I'm going to end up with 6 products. So 8, 7, 6. And then video games that I'm writing. I've still got the zombie one to finish. The Slime Boy, which was a backup idea that I was working on, but I will move it to another month. I'm going to do another Build Box game before my membership on that runs out. The RPG YouTube video, and another game that I've been thinking about working on for a while, and that's going to be 5 video games by the end of the year. And then for the cooking category of content, as far as saleable products go by the end of the year, I mean, my mukbang doesn't really count. It's something I could do and I could make money at, but it's not something I can sell after the fact. If I get to a point where I can monetize my videos and my back archive, people want to look up and find that category of content, I may get some residual ad income from that, but it's not really something I'm making and selling. It's not anything like that. So looking at that kind of thing, when I'm looking at doing a recipe collection, so like my cooking show coming up, and any like food blogging or other things like those, I feel like one of those possibilities is a food blogging, a cooking show, and a recipe book. And the possibility of making a recipe book, sort of like I talked at one point about the woman who's a YouTuber who did some vegan cookbooks that she posted online, and it's like 50 recipes for vegan recipes or whatever, and she sells them as an ebook that you can download, and they cost like $25 a piece or something like that. That's brilliant marketing, and if I take a similar approach, I could potentially do. Years ago, I came up with an idea for a cookbook that I want to do, and then when I did my mukbang videos, I did the taste tests of some different national foods, and at the end of that, I picked about 2 or 3 of my favorites from those taste tests that I wanted to try and make myself. And so if I do a cooking show with those and I figure out the recipe that works best for me with my own tweaking of it and whatnot, I can then write that as a food blog and compile that later again into maybe another e-cookbook. And then the other thing is I wanted to do a cookbook of ways to add distinct flavors to foods. So, like, can you make a powder that you can flavor popcorn like mango? That's something that would be fun to do as a potential food hack. So that would be 3 things that I could make food-based to try and have something that people can download and pay for. And then because music is I will do two weeks of music during this whole year. I have 2 ideas for music to do. One of them is going to be a downloadable album, I guess we could call it, of holiday songs, and they're going to be joke holiday songs. They're going to be for fun. But the second category of things I want to do is I've been playing around with the fact that a lot of my videos don't have opening music on them. And part of that is because in the early days of doing the videos on this channel, I used some of the free video music in the YouTube library. And then within a week or two, or actually probably within 6 months of one of those videos going up, I got hit with a copyright strike from a video, from a music that was downloaded directly from YouTube, where they told me, like, this isn't copyrighted music, I'm okay to use this. But as near as I can tell, something that happened along the way was that the author, the creator of that music, hit up a company for a deal, and they sold their music, and the company, when they bought the music, bought the rights to it and then copyrighted that music, or at least copyright strike anybody who uses that now. And so I eliminated the music from the video I used. But since then, knowing the possibility that I could take something that's copyright-free music, and anytime in the next 5 to 7 years, somebody could hit me with a copyright strike for it, and if you get enough of those, they delete your channel. I didn't want to put that on the possibility menu. So I'm like, nope, I'm done. I'm not gonna download any music. But what I come to now is the possibility of creating some simple little background music that I can use in my own videos, and if I want to, I can make them as copyright-free music that people are welcome to download and support my creation of that kind of stuff. Again, like that shareware sort of quality of content. And I would favor doing small little pieces of music that can be looped as a track, so that you can make it last as long or as short as you want to for your video if you play it in the background. Or you can have a 10-second clip of it run as a opener video sound. And I might do something along those lines for simple sound effects too. So that week, what I'll probably do, I'll do one album of Christmas music well before Christmas so people can download it as a Christmas album because it'd be fun to give to family. And then I will do another week later in the year, probably around September to October-ish, where it's likely to be little tracks that you can use in YouTube videos and that kind of stuff. So that'll be the two categories of music. And then talking about just getting a trial run under my belt of doing the reimagined episodes that I talked about, like the Star Wars reimagined and the Iron Man reimagined and those types of things. If I can just do one of those kinds of things before the start of the new year, it'll get it a little under my belt and get out there that I'm trying to do some of this stuff. And I feel like what I want to do is like an episode of The Twilight Zone or Black Mirror or something like that, and just reimagine an episode in a new way. And that way, the shorter content than a whole movie allows me to experiment with doing a lot less of a story to redo. I may do them as key point scenes without doing the whole thing and make it like a 10-minute video or something like that. So that would be one reimagined content by the end of the year. And so if you've noticed, I've got 8 to 1 on the bottom half, and then 15 videos and 14 pieces of artwork being a top end of the video. That leaves 13, 12, 11, 10, and 9 to do. And so I've got to do something for each of those because the nerd in me needs to have a complete numerical sequence there. So for 13, 12, and 11, they're going to be the different categories of content that I do for health and well-being. So like meal plans for a daily meal that daily meal plans that can help you keep a healthy, fit diet while working out or getting exercise or whatever. And do them as like a chart that you can swap meals around. And if you have 13 or 12 or 13 days of that kind of stuff where you can swap pieces in and around, that to me would give you a very versatile sequence of things. So part of it would be doing, like, if I did 12 of them, it's like 12 days of meals, each day a different meal. But if you split it into 3 categories where you're going to do high caloric intake for fitness people, average meal caloric intake for people who are maintaining weight, and then a low caloric intake for people who are looking to lose weight at a safe, steady rate. And so taking something like 12 and splitting it into 3 different tiers would give me 4 days each tier that you can do different meals all day long. And so if you have 3 meals every day for 4 days, you're going to have enough content that you can move them around and make a sustainable dietary practice for that time frame. And I can do the same sort of thing for exercise routines. So how to target different muscles and cardio and I can't say it out loud because I've only really ever read it. Plyometrics, which is it's more fast twitch muscle exercises rather than that. So like you can do cardio, endurance, high intensity training, and plyometrics, and flexibility exercises. And if you did that, each of those categories with a certain set of exercises that you can move around as tiles and get a different routine on a regular basis, I think that would be really good. And then The other category of content that I make for health and well-being categories are mental health exercises. And so again, making a sort of an interchangeable, movable stack of things you can work on to improve your mental health over a period of time. Doing that, I could do, so between the three of those things, I can do 13, 12, and 11. And then for 10 and 9, I'm looking at merchandise for this channel. So it would be like shirts, cups, clocks, those kinds of things that you can get printed and made out, like sweatshirts and jackets and all those standard things, with some of my artwork designs or logos or some of that stuff on it. And then 9, I was thinking of doing a series of pins or patches or things like that. So they're accessories that you can put on, and they wouldn't be something that I could get produced in the same way that I could get t-shirts and tote bags made. So there'd be 2 different categories of merch that I ended up getting. And so I was thinking, okay, it's a bit of a stretch, but that kind of gets me my 15 to 1 numbers for things I can do for this channel that end up producing some saleable value, that produce some income that makes this a business, that I can actually call it a business at some point, rather than a hobby that I'm doing. Even if it's not a hugely profitable big business, and even if it's only part-time or break even kind of business, at least then I can pitch it to family as a legitimate venture that I'm doing. So I was looking at that, thinking about that one, and then looking also at the possibility of what kinds of things like those can I do for my Roving Jack channel. And for that one, that's going to be more along the lines of projects that I teach myself and learn, like each week. If I try to learn a new project or learn a new skill, I can actually do that as once I've learned a skill, I can see about constructing classes on sites like Udemy or Skillshare, where I get paid for students taking that class. And so that's one possible thing of doing it for, like, if I do 1 video a week on that topic for a year, that's 54 videos. If I only managed like half of those videos or a quarter of those videos by the end of a year I think are worth maybe doing a simple class on, then I might just do that. And that may be a way to make some income from that. Then there's the tinkering videos, where I could do downloadable video content, like video tutorials that people can download and learn how to make those things. Because when I do a tinkering project, it's not always going to be something that fits nicely into a 10-minute video. Some of it's going to be like an hour and a half of work that I put into a project. And if I do a walkthrough of that, I would rather do a YouTube video that's maybe like key points of what I did when I did this. For more detailed examination of my process of making this happen, you can go download the full video over on such and such a site or something like that. You should be able to make what I'm doing if you understand the processes, but for a full walkthrough of how to do it, it's sort of like a class at that point. And I can put a price on that, I'd imagine. But also some of my projects, if I do some woodworking or something and I build something, I may include a way to download the blueprints for doing that project. And again, make them a shareware or saleable thing. And then I could do the crowdfunding of the Makerspace tours. So that's looking at that channel, and then looking at the possibility of doing my other channel, the Opportunity Forge channel, the Cooking with Kuno, and the Steaming Mad channel. All 3 of those potentially have means of generating income from them as well. So I've been sort of playing around, like planning to understand them as a means of making business out of them. Not that I don't mind creating things for the sake of creating and sharing, but it's hard to justify doing some of this stuff as a part-time business if I can't show that it's a legitimate business. So I got to figure some of that out, and I'm sort of playing at it. I hate trying to make it a business because I don't want it to be that way. I want to be able to explore and do things and then share them with people. But if I'm going to put 40 hours a week into doing that, I got to eat too. And I hate it comes down to that. But I feel like if I can at least get it to a point where it doesn't cost me money to produce these videos on a regular basis, and it doesn't cost me time that I could be using to make it so that I can survive. Like I don't want to have to pick between surviving and making these videos. Because in the long run, if I don't survive, I don't make the videos anyway. The long-term strategy on that is I don't make videos. So if I have to do something to switch that pattern, I will. And part of that is, getting myself to a point where I do better at my thumbnails, do better at my titling, do better at my descriptions, and do better at my keyword searches, so that people find me enough that AdSense can become at least a partial stream of income. And past that point, get an audience who's interested enough in future content that we can make a subscription fee through Patreon or whatever. However people want to do this, like get the audience, find out what the audience thinks is the best way to do this. And based off of that idea, go forward in a way that's sustainable for everybody. And then affiliate marketing is another thing I need to look into pursuing, because on this channel, I do reviews of content like books, movies, games, and whatnot. And if I could link each time I do one of those videos to where you can get those same things to explore, then getting a 1% or less commission for bringing people to those locations to find those same things, that could go a long way to defraying the cost for me. Because if I have to, I love doing the reviews of different games and stuff like that. And if my audience or myself find a game somewhere that we're interested in learning more about, my putting $50 to $80 into some of these games that I'm curious about, I don't mind doing that occasionally, but I can't afford to keep doing that long term without somehow defraying that cost. I could write it off in my taxes as a cost of my business, and that's okay, but I still have to pay for it. Like that doesn't mean like suddenly they pay me back $80 at the end of the year for every board game I purchase. That doesn't happen. It just means, it's defrayed as some of my taxation is limited based off of that. And it's a big mess. I don't want to chase down those pipes a lot. But if I can get to a point where the income generated from affiliate marketing or things like that actually allow me to explore new and interesting things. If an audience member in the future says, like, oh yeah, you totally need to check out this indie movie that's over here, and the people who produce the movie, are charging $15 a download for it, I want to be able to support indie movie producers by purchasing that movie and reviewing it and talking about it and sharing it with people, And so I got to figure out where that $15 is going to come from, because right now it's just coming right out of my pocket. And that's great. But if you do 8 categories of content every month, and you do that, so 12 months, 8 videos per month, that's a lot. If your minimum cost per video is $5 to $10, like if I go to thrift stores and just find games that are, I luck into finding a game or something, $5 to $10 for that cost, even that by the end of the year is hundreds of dollars and stuff that's coming out of my pocket. And so I have to think logistically long term, what's the most sustainable way to keep doing what I'm doing. And so I was crunching the numbers on that today, and I know that doesn't make particularly scintillating content for a video, but I was watching this young woman who was doing her video about the sustainability and income potential from being an author. And yeah, solely being an author, it's not a good outlook long term for how to make money doing that. But if you review books and you're an author and you build your audience to a sufficient size, affiliate marketing for the reviewed books and some sponsorships from book companies, publishers, or editing services or things like that, she could make those costs pay well enough in the long term that she could probably make $12,000 a year. Her marker for $50,000 a year, I think, is a little steep. But so yeah, planning out some of this in the long run. I'm looking at the, and I plotted out. I have a list somewhere. I need to see if I can dig that up, of the different shirts and cups and stuff like that I want to try to do. I'm going back and forth. Like, I'll probably just focus on some of the more fun, snarky comments that you can get printed in styles on your t-shirts and stuff, and just have fun with that. There are some more, I want to say, politically loaded slogans that I thought about. It's a venue I don't really want to walk in on. It's a stressful arena to play in, and I don't really want to make that something I do on this channel. But I'm pretty sure I have 10 designs I can do for shirts, cups, and whatnot. Pins I can do. The reason I put pins as the 9 is I have 8 categories of content. In each one of them, I came up with a rough logo for each of my categories. And I've been playing around with making badges to put on my videos. So like when I do a book video, I would do a book logo surrounded by inspired content, as if it's like a little circle with a picture of a book in the middle, a certain color, and the name of the channel around it. If I did a pin or a badge of each of those logos in each of the color schemes, and made a full set of 8 pins for each of the categories, and then have one pin for my channel logo when I redesign that logo, that would be 9 pins, and that fits perfectly for that category. And like $1 a pin for 9 pins, it's like a $10 purchase or whatever, essentially, for the whole set. If I do patches or stickers I could do for $1 too. And then those are easier to do at small price ranges. If I do like an enameled pin or a tie pin or a barrette for your hair, those are going to run a little bit more cost-wise, and I may do them if people are interested in that, but that's a different type of thing to do at a different time. The shirts, cups, clocks, and those types of things I can do through like a Cafe Press page.
I could do pillows and blankets and those types of things. It's the print-on-demand stuff. And those aren't going to be maybe channel theme focus. It's going to be more like I've made jokes, like quippy comments, like, who would have thought building murderous death bots would be so expensive? Like silly mad science quotes and stuff like that. I could do, and if I did 10 different designs, just right off the bat, say, okay, here are 10 designs that I can do and put up in a merch store that people could download, or people could purchase t-shirts and blankets and whatnot. That's totally easily doable. The health category stuff is gonna take a little bit more work to square some of that away. If I do a monthly, or if I do the categories of content that I do now for the live videos, I'm going to break that up into, because we've already done January, February, and March, and April, May. So we've essentially gone through two-month period content production. And if we really look at my plan for the year, giving myself break months in between some of them, and ending up at the end of the year with 5 things produced for each category, if we look at the health and well-being category, I should be able to do June, July, August, September, October, and then November, December. That's 3 months. I could do a daily exercise routine card set, the meal plan card set, and the mental health card set in each of those 3. And that would allow me to end up getting all of that content that I think would be beneficial set up in a way that I finish that set by the end of the year. And I can do those as live monthly creations for a week at 3 different weeks during the year. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm rambling now. I think I'm just rambling. We're 47 minutes in here. And I mean, that really details what I'm hoping. Like, I've planned out like my artworks, I think, that I want to do by the end of the year. I've planned out the videos. I have to do a little more planning for the health and well-being category of content. And then the shirt designs and the pins. I need to do new channel artwork for my logos and stuff, so I may try to do that while I'm out and traveling. The books I need to do some writing on, but I have planned out all the writing that I'm going to do for the rest of the year. And the board games, I already have the Runcible, Access Granted, Captain Rita Raygun's Thrilling Interplanetary Adventures card game, the Rita Raygun board game. And then after that, I want to do a dice, tile, and maybe a role-playing game is what I'm thinking. The products I have, the coaster set, the backpack, an undecided one. I have to figure out what makes the most sense to be working on when I'm out and traveling. And then when I get back, looking at a possibility of doing a folding stabilization rig for a camera or something like that, or other filming and photography related concepts. One of the categories of edited content that I'm doing before the end of the month here is a review of my tripod that I use, and the ideas that I come up with for prompts, the 6 prompts that I came up with for that video, some of those are things that I might explore making. So not just the stabilization rig, but some of those other things. And then clothing and a jewelry line, potentially. And then the video games, I've planned out each of those of what I want to do with that. The cooking I've planned out, and sort of explained here. The music I've explained, and then I have to figure out what I'm going to do as the Reimagined series, the one video that's a reimagining of something that is out there. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do for that. And I have to get myself back on a routine of regular full content production. Last night, working on the videos that I need to edit, like, it just seemed like everything was against me. And I have to get used to the fact that if I'm going to be working on projects, this many projects at a given time, that I can't let that derail me. Like, my battery ran out, my SD card got too full, and there's too much noise going on. It got too dark. We had a massive rainstorm, and we've got a metal roof on this place, so you can barely hear anything useful. The heater keeps kicking on, and that resonates throughout the whole house, and the mic on my camera picks that up. And so, like, figuring out how to make that all work, if I end up figuring out a way to use this camera on this laptop to do the recording of the videos, edited it within half an hour of having shot it, export it then, that could streamline my process a lot faster. And that just requires a change in a minor change in doing the setup of what I need to do to shoot my videos. If I can organize that, I can get much more done much faster. And that leaves me the time to edit the Makerspace tours, shoot a tinkering video every now and then, and really kind of get into a pattern of producing a regular amount of content every day. It's a lot to do, but I think I'm up to it. If I can get myself started, I should be up to it. And hopefully by mid-July, when I'm out in VidCon, I'm in the swing of doing it to a degree that I have a portfolio to be able to show while working with other creators. Because I'd love to work with some other creators. I don't have to be there in person to do it with them. One of the collaboration styles that I think would be kind of fun to do is shooting and trading videos back and forth with other people. So you can do a picture-in-picture or edit clips of stuff together so that person A sends video A and person B sends video B, and you put them together into one video. Yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to just exchange cards with people at VidCon and say, like, hey, let's work together on a project idea. Even if it's just like, okay, we're going to both watch this movie and we're going to record ourselves conversing back and forth about this video or movie, or we both read this book, or we play a game over the internet together. And like being able to do that and brainstorm ideas and play with, like, I want to do that so badly. And if we can do that over the internet, that means I can do a lot more collaborations. If I have to track somebody down and meet them in person to do them, it becomes more difficult. We're coming up on an hour of me rambling to myself about this, so I'm going to cut it quickly soon here. But that's sort of where I am right now. I'm going to be working this coming week a lot on finishing off some of these projects and getting to a point where I'm ready to start the next round. I do have to do some prep work for what I want to do for the cooking videos, but that should start on the, I think, is it the 4th? That should start on the 5th of May. So cooking videos start on the 5th. This next week, I will continue to update daily. They're probably going to be shorter and more social and vlog-like interactions. But it is what it is. I need a little bit of time where I'm not starting a new project while trying to finish the other 4 that I started this month. Plus the animation video and some of the computer games that are taking longer than I anticipated. I just sort of want to be able to bring them down further into a realm of completeness, or at least first draft completeness, so that people can have, you know, a marker. When I tell people, like, since New Year's, for the last, you know, when I hit June, be able to say, you know, in the last 6 months, I've written 2 or 3 books, and I've done, you know, this many board games, and I've done, I've made these many products. Here are some recipes from my cooking show. Here's 1 or 2 video games that you could play and offer feedback on, or just have fun with. And here's, you know, some of my artwork that you can download posters of, or whatever you want to do with that. And like, be able to say, like, here, have a look at some of these things, share them. Like, because right now I've got 80% done on 10 projects. So 80% done on 10 projects. But I can't share them with anybody yet because they're not fully done yet to a degree that I'm ready to share yet. Maybe it's the perfectionist in me trying to, you know, keep pushing it to a point where I'm ready to be going. But I want to be able to get to a point where it doesn't feel like I'm sending you pictures of index cards with handwriting on them for a card game. I want to be able to say, like, here's a playable game, here's a readable book or a short story for me to share with you. And some of that requires you know, beta readers and editors to finish off some of the writing or the game stuff that I do. And so I kind of want to spend a little bit of time getting that squared away. That's what I'll be doing over the next few days. And then I'll start in on the cooking show. And then trying to do some music. That's going to be a hard week. And then after music comes video game. And what do I have for video games that I want to finish up? So I started the zombie one. I may see if I can finish that one off. I may do a build box game this time around. I did sort of think about the Slime Boy game as a backup game design. I may get back around to that and do it as its own project on its own week. And then I've got the YouTube role-playing game that I want to do. And then a game based on my People of the Clear Waters, Tata de Phoenix, on Drunk Duck, or The Duck. I don't know what they call it now. They changed the name of it. But it's the one that's based off of the Sume E Ink style artwork that I did with pencil years ago. I built out a whole world building and storyline for that series, and then I stopped producing the comics. But I was looking at it a while back and thinking about, I bet you I could make a game in that setting that would be really interesting art style to use as a playable game. So I kind of want to look at doing that. It's sort of like a side scroller. I started figuring out how I would do that. So, like, finishing the zombie game is the first game that I started. The second game that I should be doing now, I think, is probably working on a build box game. The third game that I'll probably do when I'm out traveling is going to be the YouTube role-playing game. And then the last 2 games of the year, I think, are going to be Slime Boy and the People of Clearwater, of the Clearwaters game. And those are like I think those are the ones that make the most sense to try to finish by the end of the year. I may end up having to purchase the RPG Maker side scroller construction game engine to make my People of the Clearwater game. But we'll see how that goes. I might be able to produce a sample gameplay on BuildBox before my membership runs up, but I think my membership runs out in September. So I don't know that that makes as much sense as I want it to. And purchasing another year on BuildBox is it's more than 3 times as expensive as the RPG Maker would be. So I may just end up going a one-time purchase on the RPG Maker and just call it. So I may do that. So I've got a few things more to finish planning for tonight and some editing to do. And then after that, I will see you tomorrow for a little more update of where I am and what I'm doing. All right. Have a good one. And end stream, because I don't want to ramble anymore. End.